Hi everyone. Thank you so much everyone for coming from near and far. People who have driven for over an hour to get here, people who have flown in. We appreciate having this support from my family during this unimaginably painful time. My name is Yen. This is my dad. It's nice to see old friends again and appreciate all the time that you've taken to come here. I'm going to try to get through this, but my dad told me so many stories about his childhood back in Bangka, Indonesia. His dad worked at the hospital, and my grandma was a bidan, which is somebody who delivered a lot of babies. He grew up a little bit mischievous and a little bit naughty, and liked making homemade pointy sticks and had slingshots in his back pocket, and he reminded me of Dennis the Menace. He told me a story about how he'd walk around with these pointy sticks and start throwing them at banana trees in his backyard, and he'd kill a few trees here and there, but he had a lot of fun doing it. And he said when he went out to play, the other moms would call all their kids back inside. I'm very similar to my dad, maybe not with pointy sticks or with slingshots, but I would get into trouble growing up. But he was never mad at me because I was an exact copy of him and he couldn't be mad at me. He loved teasing our family, my mom, my brother, myself. And I'm sure he teased all his friends too. And in Indonesian, they call it ganggu-ganggu, right? He had such a childlike innocence about him that it was so refreshing to see. He had no ill will of anybody, no ill intentions. Just a really, really sweet guy. My mom and my dad exemplified a beautiful marriage. There's one with love and laughter, and also a little bit tension is always okay. And he rooted for my mom and was so proud of her cooking, just like I am. And I hope you can all agree my mom makes very good food. But behind every great cook was an even better dishwasher. So my dad said he learned it from his dad, not to fit the normal roles of gender, but men in our family could do things women could do, and women in our family were taught to be strong, like my grandma, my aunt, and now my mom. And I hope I'm like that too. My mom would cook late into the night, 3, 4 in the morning, yet he would never go to sleep until she was done. He waited with her. As she finished cooking, he would tidy up, wash all those dishes, throw away the garbage, and then they would all be able to rest together. He had dreams of making pastel goreng in production. He was looking at machinery and equipment that could make it faster, much faster than a fork could ever pinch the edges. He dreamed these dreams, but never fulfilled them. Who knows, maybe this is our family's legacy, to make pastel goreng or feed people, continue to feed people. Likewise, my dad has always supported all my dreams. Like when I decided to go to design school downtown at OCAD, he was very proud. He drove me to my first Frosh Week, and Frosh Week is an event where, you get to meet other university students. And then there was an event where we could sleep over downtown in a place. And he brought me downtown, drove me, had my sleeping bag. And when he dropped me off, he said, I'll wait here for you. I'll wait here for you for 10 minutes in case you don't want to stay. I went up to the place, and there was music, and there was things that I wasn't comfortable with. There were people I didn't know. So I went back downstairs. And when I came back downstairs, my dad asked me, is it okay? And I said, I don't want to stay, Pa. And he's like, it's okay, come home. And he understood, and he brought me home. I love that he gave me a choice and he let me make my decisions. He supported me when I took 3 months off to go to Indonesia for a mission trip with Pastor Ed. And during that time, anytime I could get a hold of him, and this was back in 2005, like texting was very difficult. But he'd say, Papa kangen, which in English is like, Dad misses you. So he was looking forward to like picking me up at the airport. And then he supported me when I decided to change careers. He said, wherever God leads your heart, I just know I would rather you do it now than look back in 5 years regretting not doing the things you wanted to do. I said, thank you, Pa, for always encouraging me. For those of you who don't know, my dad and I had a very special bond. He was my best friend, and he knew it, and I knew it. Growing up, I'd spend every morning just sitting with him, talking with him, having like any sort of discussion before I started my day. Then I'd run off, to go to work or to school. And even though I've moved out, I call every day, sometimes in the morning, but mostly after work, just to see how they're doing, how their day was. And the last few months, it's always been, have you eaten yet? I'm like, no, Pa, I didn't eat, I just left work. And he said, okay. And then he'd ask again, have you eaten yet? I'm like, no, Pa, I'm still on my way home. He was always looking out for me. So every time I went to visit Mom and Dad, he'd always, can I make you a coffee? Like, of course, Dad, anything you want. So an example of our close bond was when I was in junior high school, so about grade 7, grade 8, I don't remember. My dad would take me out to lunch once a month, and I could pick anywhere I wanted to go. The popular place to go to was McDonald's. As a teenager, it was so important to have that safety, love, and assurance from my father. One day, my dad came and he suggested we eat cafeteria food. So think about a grown man, in a high school cafeteria with lots of teenagers, and it was just me and my dad. We ate. We had French fries, and I forgot what else we ordered, but he ordered it. And I know people were looking, but I didn't care because he was my best friend. And what kind of a dad does that, I'd probably say the best dad in the world. I didn't need gifts, and I didn't need things. I just needed him, and he showed up. He never desired riches, a big house, a fancy car. He said he was most proud of the family that we had and how much we loved each other. I love that simplicity about him, the fact that he never needed to boast or to show off to others to prove his worth. He was happy with items like flashlights and rechargeable batteries, camping equipment. He loved getting containers and taking off the labels, and he loved playing his harmonica. Very, very simple things. But from that I've learned to be simple also. Not to need material goods, not to chase after money or wealth. Our riches were not to be stored here on earth where moth and rust destroy, but rather to store our treasure in heaven. Over the last few years, I've taken the role of caring for both my parents, driving them around, supporting them, and Christian has too, in every sense possible, doing grocery runs for them, supporting them in every way we could. And I'd always end up having a meal with them. During those times, I had a chance to capture memories of my parents by taking lots of pictures. Smiling. My dad always made faces, like I couldn't never take a serious picture with him. And I would never know that I captured such irreplaceable moments of the mundane. I have so many pictures and memories of my dad sitting across the table, any table. And before leaving their condo, my dad would wait outside the door and kind of lean out and wave at me. And for the last few years since I've moved out, every time I'm leaving, I turn around and I take a picture of him waving at me. Bye, he'd say, bye, I love you. And I'd yell down the hallway, I love you, Dad. I'll see you soon, okay? Navigating this world without you, Dad, is going to be so scary. No longer. no longer having your new wisdom. I'm thankful you've left us with little bits of your personalities with all your friends and all the oms and all the tantas who our family can help turn to for help and counsel now. I'm grateful for the Holy Spirit who gives us comfort in a time of such loss, and pray that we continue looking to God. I know that this life is not our own, that despite the fact we don't understand why we need to suffer such loss and such grief, I don't know that it's not, despite the fact that we don't understand why we need to suffer such grief and loss, I do know that it's not up to us to ask and understand. I know that even if God tried to explain to us why, we just wouldn't understand. But I know that this life, each one of our lives, is pointing back to God and His majesty. My dad liked adventures. He was always curious about nature, but also loved little outings. I spent a lot of time with my parents and cherished every moment with them. His whole camping group would have been here or are here via online or in present here. And they've got so many stories about him. Please ask them about it. I remember some nights while we were camping at night, I'd see my dad sitting on the picnic table by himself, just looking up at the stars. And I'd come join him and I'd sit and I'd ask, "What are you thinking about, Dad?" And he said, "I have a desire to sit at the water at nighttime. And I want Jesus to come towards me by the water and sit down next to me and talk with me." He so badly wanted to have that, to be in the presence of God. But these last 2 months have been both difficult, but also a blessing, that I could spend 2 whole months loving and caring for him. While he was intubated, he was mouthing words to me that I was trying to figure out. I had such a hard time. He couldn't talk, but he could mouth things. One day, he was trying to say something to me I couldn't understand. So I asked him, "Dad, just say the first word." And he was mouthing it to me. And then I figured out the first word was Papa. And I'm like, "Papa?" He's like, "Yes, Papa." I'm like, "Great." And I spent another few minutes trying to figure out the second word. It was so difficult. And the second word was sayang. And I said, "Papa, sayang?" And he's like, "Yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you." And in English, that's "Dad loves you." My dad fought a hard fight. But one of the last days I had with my dad was the Friday before. I stayed with him overnight after work, and I promised him that if he slept, we would have an adventure the next day. We woke up, had breakfast, and I got him ready, and we took my dad to the cafeteria where he sat in front of a large window. And at that point, he'd been confined to his bed in his room for weeks. He soaked in the sun, and he closed his eyes, and he looked up. I just remember him closing his eyes and looking up. And he saw a bird, and he's like, "Oh, lihat burung." He was so happy to see the bird, and there were clouds. We were so excited because he was going to go home soon. We had set him up with home care, and we had everything set up ready for him to go. I took him outside, and he had a breath of fresh air. He hadn't breathed in fresh outdoor air in almost 2 months. So that was really, really nice. And then we went back inside. And we sat down by the Starbucks and we shared a blueberry muffin. That was around Thanksgiving weekend. I promised my dad on Sunday, "Dad, we're going to cook you a really, really nice turkey dinner." As exhausted as we were, we'd prepared a turkey, all the stuffings, all the trimmings. And that Sunday was the day my dad went back into ICU. So he never really got to eat the turkey. He loves God with all his heart, And I often found him also singing and worshiping. But I also caught him crying a few times in his last days. And I asked, are you okay? What happened? He's like, nothing happened. I'm crying because God has been so good to me. I have such a wonderful family. I'm so blessed. He goes, I'm crying because God's blessed me with such a wonderful family. I can't ask for more. We had faith and we truly believed he was going to go home. He was getting better and he was walking and exercising and talking, full of joy and of spirit. But I never imagined that the home he would be returning to wasn't our own, but it was his home in heaven. I close with this. Kids here who have parents, I know they annoy you, and I hope that you know that all these annoyances and all these little things that bother you, appreciate them. In Indonesian, they call it ganggu. My dad loved teasing us, Be grateful and thankful that you have them because my dad can't ever bother me again. And to the parents out there, please, take the time to tell your kids that you're proud of them, the way my dad always told me he was proud of us. Saying it to them is so important for us kids to hear, and tell us that you love us. These words have so much power in it. You have no idea. I know my dad was proud of me and he loved me because he told me every day. I am stronger and more assured person because of him. I love you so much, Dad, and I don't want to say goodbye, but I will say I will see you soon. And I can't wait to see you again, Pa. Thank you, everyone.